Hi, I'm Ashley from Sunny Made, and today we have a free quilt pattern using Flying Geese. Hello friends, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. How did your summer go? Did you get some sewing done? Are your kids back in school? How are things going? My kids are all back in school. I have a senior, my oldest is a senior, and my youngest is in kindergarten, and there's a couple there in between, and so it's been a big beginning of the school year. And it's been fun. We had a great summer, and now it's time to get back into the swing of things. So this week I am giving you a new quilt pattern. It's going to be free. I'm going to teach you how to do it all. And my technique that I wanted to teach you this time is flying geese. I want you guys to get really good at flying geese, and we are going to use it in this quilt. So let me show you what we are doing. This is, got extra strings. This is our pattern that we're making. This is the first one I made. And as you can see, we're using flying geese to make pinwheels. And then, of course, because it's stars, we got to put a star right there in the middle. There is going to be a little bit of 2 at a time half square triangles, but there's only 4 of those, so those are super easy, and I know you know how to do them. So when we're done, we are going to, you guys are going to be really good at flying geese, and that's kind of the point of this beauty here. This turns out 48 by 48. Great size for a baby, so if you have a baby that you know is born soon, this is a great project to make for them. I did a write-up on my blog, and it's going to have all of the cut pieces, all of the fabric requirements, and of course the steps. In the video that you're watching right now, I'm going to do all the pieces labeled A through, I don't know, what did I end up with, H or I, okay? Especially those background pieces. There's lots of different background sizes. And I'm going to refer to them in this video as the letter, but you can go to my blog post and see what each of those letters are and follow along as we put it together. So let me show you how our other one turned out. I did make a few changes. What I mainly did is I took and made these 2 the same fabric and made these 2 the same fabric and changed up the background, and it actually turned out super fun. So here we have some bright and colorful fabric and a new bright and colorful quilt. And so this is what we're going to be working on together, is this one specifically. I do have a small favor to ask. One of my local quilt stores is doing a contest. And part of that contest is you're taking this fabric line, and I had to use 5 fabrics from this fabric line and make something from it. And that's what I did here, as I put together another sample to make with you. And then what they're doing is they're gonna post them all on Facebook, and the person with the most likes, engagements, comments on the particular project gets a $200 gift card to their fabric store. So of course, I would love $200 to go shop for more fabric. So I'm going to link that post down in the description box. If you guys will go find it, like it, comment on it, say I sent you over, I would so greatly appreciate it. So here it is. This is the one we're looking for. And again, I will put that down in the description box. So gather your fabrics. This one, I did use 5 different fabrics besides the background. So we have this fun owl print. We have this print, the dots. We have, this is our feathers, so I put them opposite of each other, the pinwheels opposite. And then this one is wavy lines and circles, and that's the opposite ones there. And then I used a blue that brought in something a little more solid, a blender, and tied it all in together. So let's go over what we need and get started on our project. Okay, so let's look at this from this perspective. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of flying geese here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more sets of flying geese here. So I have a total of 9 flying geese. So we are going to take this design and change it over to this other fabric. This is the original one that I did, and now it's time to change it over. So we have 7 sets where the colored fabric is in the middle of a flying geese here, and then these 3, so you have the 4 in the corner, and then these 3, and then we have flying geese where the color is in the middle here, but in the star points here as well as here. So the ones in the middle, you need a 7.5 inch square. So I have 7 7.5 inch squares, and then for each set you need 4 of your background fabric, and these are 4.5 inches. So I have 7 sets of 4.5 inch of the background fabric and 7 sets of the pattern fabric to create that inner point. For this set here, we have a background as the middle, okay, and the star points are the pattern fabric. So I have a 7.5 inch background and 4.5 inch of the colored fabric. And this set that is right below this set, okay, we are going to do the same fabric here as the 7.5 inch. So it creates this fun V shape. And then the points on this are going to be a colored fabric as well. So I have 4.5 inch fabrics. So here between my piles, I have 7 here, 8, and then 9 sets of flying geese. Now, with one set of these, let's just look at this one right here. You are going to get all 4 pieces. So we're going to take these 5 pieces of fabric and we are going to turn them into 4 flying geese. I do have a video on how to do that, but I'm going to walk you through right here. So this is our background. We're going to take our first 2 smaller squares and we are going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. Now the method we're using on this one is the no waste flying geese method. Okay, so once I have that diagonal line drawn, I'm going to take my big square and I'm going to line up the edges here and then line up the edges here. And you can see that line that is going all the way down from corner to corner, top to bottom. And I'm just going to pin these into place so my pieces aren't moving. I am then going to take it to the ironing board and I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance down each side of these pieces of this line. Okay, I have sewn down each side of that line that I drew. I am now going to cut down that line. Okay, and now I'm going to iron my pieces open. Okay, this is what my two pieces look like now that I've ironed them open. I'm going to pull over my last two small pieces, and once again I'm going to draw a diagonal line corner to corner on both of them. Okay, I'm going to take my first one and I'm going to line it up so that my line that I just drew goes right between these 2 points and lining up with this point. And once again, I'm going to do that with this one. Now I'm going to take these to the sewing machine and sew down both sides of this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so here is my one piece of Flying Geese. I sewed it down each side. I am now going to trim it down that line, and I'm going to iron them open, and I will now have 2 of these. So here was one set. I get 4 from this one, and this is my second set that I just sewed, and I ironed it open, and so I have 4 of these. Now what I want to do is trim these up so that they are 6.5 wide by 3.5 tall. So how I'm going to do that is, first, my point here is going to be at 3.25 this way from each side. And I want to start by lining it up so that my 3.25 dot hits that V right there, and it's a 1/4 inch from the edge. And I'm going to make that first trim just like that. So I have a 1/4 inch from here and at 3.25 there in the middle. Next, this is where also my 3.25 comes in. If I line up, oops, let's get it lined up right, that bottom line of the bottom of my Flying Geese at 3.5, because that's how high I want it, and line up that point at 3.25, I then have my diagonal line going right up the diagonal of my Flying Geese. And if I can get it from not moving, I'm going to hold this down really hard, and I'm going to do one side and then the top, and that just allows me not to have to do too much moving. So then when I flip it around, I'm going to line up my left side at 6.5 and my bottom at 3.25, and I'm going to trim it right there. So here I have a 3.5 by 6.5 Flying Geese. Now what I want to do at this point, I am going to take all the rest of my pieces, and just like I did these 4 Flying Geese, I'm going to pair these up, this one with this one, and these backgrounds with all of these here, and I'm going to make a set of 4 Flying Geese from each one of these big squares. So go make all your Flying Geese. By the time you're done, you're going to have so much practice with Flying Geese, and you're going to get great at them. So you're going to make them all at one time. Let me show you how to trim this again, and I will show you a slightly different way if you want to do that. So I'm going to put that 3.25 here in the point of my Flying Geese. I'm then going to make sure that that diagonal line goes right up the diagonal of my Flying Geese. Okay, and I'm going to do one, oops, be good if my blade was out. Safety first, right? 1, 2, okay. I've cut 2 sides. Then if I turn it around and I line it up at 6.5 and 3.5, I'm going to end up with that perfect Flying Geese. And you have 1/4 inch from your point, and a beautiful flying geese. So when you're done with each set of these, you will have 4 flying geese with these pieces. You'll have 4 flying geese with these pieces, and you're going to have 4 sets of flying geese, which each, you're going to have a set of flying geese, which is 4 from each of these. Okay, the next thing we need to prep are these half square triangles. So we are going to need 4 of them. So I have my 2 background pieces. These are 4 inches, and my pattern fabric. We are going to use the 2 at a time half square method of making half square triangles. And whoops, apparently I already had it open. We are just going to run a diagonal line down each side, down our background. Okay, just like that on our triangles. We are then going to pair them up with our pattern fabric. And in order to make the 2 at a time, you're going to sew 1/4 inch down each side of these. Cut them, iron them open, and then we'll trim them to 3.5 inches. Okay, here we have our half square triangles. I iron them towards the background fabric. I don't think it really matters on this, but I just like to be consistent, so that's what I did. And now we are just going to trim them to 3.5 inches. Once you've done that, it is time to start putting all our quilt together. Now, if you look at the blog post that I put together on this quilt, I labeled all of the background pieces that we are going to use, and they are A, B, C, and D. And so we're going to start there and start putting our quilt together. We're going to put it together in sections and then sew it all together. Now that we have everything prepped, it is time to start putting our sections together. I like to do this in sections, just like I would a quilt block. We're going to put it together in sections as a quilt. We're going to have 4 corner pieces. Then we're going to have 4 middle, which is our horizontal piece, and then we're just going to have our center piece here. So you'll end up with a 3 by 3 grid when we're done. So next, we're going to work on this piece here because we need to create 4 of them. Okay, so these are my number 1s. They are going to be facing each other. Okay, this one is my number 2, and it is facing out towards the edge of the quilt. I am now going to have a letter A. This is 3.5 by 6.5. We'll use a lot of these in this pattern. We then are going to put, this is number 3. Scoot those up so you can see what I'm doing. And then this is my number 4. And when you put that on, it creates this nice V. So I'm going to make 4 sets of these. And so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to, oh, wrong one, pile up each one on top of each other, take the whole stack over to my sewing machine, and sew them all together. Okay, here I have our 4 pieces. They're all put together. So that is going to be the 4 pieces coming out. Now it's time to put together our pinwheels. So we are going to need our 2 sets of 5 and our 2 sets of 6, as well as those half square triangles. And those are going to be added to with several of our background fabric. Okay, here are our background fabric pieces that we're going to be using to make our pinwheel. They are all labeled in that blog post. Make sure that you go check them out so you can put them together. So I'm going to put together one set with you, and then what we're going to do, you just need to make 4 exactly the same, and you're just going to rotate them, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So for each one you need 1 of these half square triangles, and you need 1 set of pinwheels or flying geese. So here are my 2 sets. And let's start by laying out this block. So down here we have our half square triangle. You are going to frame it with D and F. Okay. Then over here is E is going to be next to it, and G is over the top. We are then going to take our pinwheels. Let's scoot those over. Now, if you have directional fabric, this is where you're going to start watching the direction of your fabric, depending on how you want to use it. Or if you don't care, that's okay too. Okay, we have a pinwheel with the points. The points are facing going around clockwise. Okay, we're going to put a, see right here, don't worry about this because I'm going to walk you through each set. I'm just showing you how we're putting this together. And then we have a B right here and several A's. We're going to put an A there, an A there, and an A there. Okay, so here is our beginning of our pinwheel block. What I'm going to start with is, move these out of the way, our half square triangle. I'm going to take D, sew it on along here, iron it towards my background fabric. Then I'm going to take F, iron it along, or sew it along here, then iron it towards my background fabric. Okay, now that we have this piece together, we're going to add E right along here, ironing it towards the background fabric. And then we were going to add G to the top of it, ironing it towards the background fabric. Okay, now that we have our first part of our pinwheel together, we are going to start with the next part of our corner block. So I'm going to sew C to this one, ironing it towards the background fabric. I'm going to sew B to this one, ironing it towards the background fabric. This is an A, sewing it onto this, ironing towards the background fabric. And this is an A also. I'm going to sew it onto this flying geese and ironing it towards that background fabric. Okay, we have sewn together each of those pieces. They are all ready to go. So now, to get it ready for our next move, I'm going to sew this flying geese to the half square triangle piece that I made, and then this flying geese along this edge to this A piece. Okay, we have all our pieces together. We now have 4 pieces. It is time to sew them together in rows. We're going to iron towards the black fabric, okay, when we do it this way. So this ones are going to go this way, this one's going to go this way, and then we're going to sew along this line here, nesting those seams right in the middle. Okay, here we have our finished pinwheel block. Now, in order for us to be able to put this next to this, okay, we need to add a few more pieces. We are going to put J on the side and K on the top. So get those put on your block. Get all three of the other blocks. Okay, put them all together and bring them back here with our center pieces. Okay, here we have all of our pieces. We've put those border pieces on it. You should have 4 windmill blocks that look just like this. We're going to put this one to the left with that half square triangle pointing towards the center. We're going to put this flying geese strip in the middle. And then we're going to take that other fabric that we had, and we're going to put it on the other side, once again, with those half square triangles pointing towards the center. We have our piece that goes in the center of our quilt. Flip it around so that my cute owls are facing the right direction. We're going to put those flying geese strip on each side. We're going to make 2 of this top row, sewing them together, 1 of this middle row, sewing them together. The top and the bottom are going to look exactly the same, which is why I am putting them on top of each other. Now, when I sew this top row together, I'm going to iron them towards the outer corners. And then this middle row, I'm going to iron towards the center. Okay, here we have our finished quilt top. There's one last step. We sewed our rows together, ironed them, then sewed the rows together horizontally. It is all sewn together. And last, what I want to do is put a final border all the way around it. Just like with everything else, we're looking at 3.5-inch strips. I'm going to start by sewing it on the sides. Those are going to be 3.5 inches by 42.5 inches. And then the top strips are going to be 3.5 inches by 48.5 inches. And then we're going to end up with a 48.5-inch square top. Okay, here you have your finished quilt top. Okay, all quilted already, all put together, bound and ready to go. How did yours turn out? I would love to see it. You can find me on Instagram at Ashley_SunnyMade. Don't forget to go vote at that link down in the description on that Facebook post. I would love to see what your thoughts are on it, and I hope you have a great week. Happy sewing.